This is the Be One Change One podcast, where our mission is to help listeners define values, practice integrity, and inspire change.
Our vision is to mentor men and empower them to achieve more by taking responsibility for shaping their own lives.
He's CAS, an evolving man who has been shaped by adversity and continues to grow through his imperfections.
And he's Roscoe, an imperfect work in progress that tries to suck less every day.
Between us, we have over 40 years of Air Force fighter pilot experience with countless hours as trainers, instructors, and mentors.
Join us and learn to take responsibility for your own life as we dive into subjects from leadership to resilience to vulnerability.
Be the one who changes their course. Be decisive, driven, and purposeful. Set the example for others. Lead. We wish we'd had this show when we were younger men.
Be the one.
Stand back up, and you should just do the whole episode where you were, because it was a great crotch shot. There you go. Yes.
There we go. Is that better?
Well, for some, maybe.
I'm still not centered, but I don't know.
For me, not so much. Whatever.
How's that?
Don't overthink it. It's perfect, dude. You're perfect. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
All right.
I get that a lot.
Yeah. So it took us 4 months to figure out the audio. It's probably going to take us another 4 months to figure out this video.
Probably.
I tried to record with the second camera. I couldn't figure that out. So I just aborted, went ugly early, and I'm just using my camera off of my computer here, which isn't awesome, but it's better than what I had going on. And then we got the fuzzy, grainy iPad video from CAS's hotel room, which is
yes,
less than awesome, but we're making it work. So,
that's why okay, never mind.
Yeah,
I'm like, why is my computer not charging? Well, because I just unplugged it so I could plug my iPad in.
No new lessons.
Awesome. Okay.
No new lessons, just lessons revisited. So, dude, we've already fucked up a few times because this is supposed to be First Name Friday, and
it is.
I think in the flail of the crotch shots and everything, we've both referenced each other as better call signs, and so we're already starting out owing dollars to the Snacko already.
Yeah, assessed.
Yeah. So the idea, going back to last month, we kind of explained it a little bit. First Name Friday, we wanted to do our monthly Q&A and taking questions from listeners, all the while trying to refer to each other by our first names, just as an added degree of difficulty so that we can get a perfect 10 on the dive. So far, we're not doing great. We're losing points here. We're in last place on Dancing with the Stars. So yeah, I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to talk in open generic terms, person. So sent out some feelers for some questions. Did you get any back?
Yeah. Yeah, well, just the ones that we already talked about.
Sweet. Yeah, I sent out, I don't know. I sent out some requests and we had gotten some emails and we've gotten some good comments on the iTunes podcast or Apple podcast or whatever we're calling it now. So here's the bottom line, man, is it's catching on. Like people are getting in it, and after a few months, I think we're going to have a neat little community of people who are sharing ideas and asking the right questions. And regardless of the age group, I'm kind of excited to where this is going. So,
yeah, me too. And just for the listeners out there too, I think it's important to stress that you guys reach out to us on the socials, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Leave us comments and messages and let us know what you're thinking, what we can do better, what we can do different, or any questions that you have that we can put on First Name Fridays.
Yeah, that's awesome. And kind of just, the reason that we're doing this the way that we are, Cass is in a hotel room. Sorry, see, there's another $1. Where are you at right now?
I'm in Long Beach, California. Yeah.
Okay. I'm holding the fort down in Phoenix. Cass is remote. So we decided to try this and
just south of Compton, West Side Playa.
Ooh. All right, dude. Okay. I like to tell stories. So Katie and I went to Southern California to go visit some of her friends. This has been years ago. And it was the same weekend that Straight Outta Compton was opening in the theaters. And we're down in like Irvine, right? And we're driving up towards like Santa Monica. And I told Katie, I was like, I so want to go watch Straight Outta Compton in Compton. And she drew the line. She did let me go to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, but she wouldn't. And that doesn't count because I was that's an actual place of business, Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles.
It is. It is.
It's not awesome. Go to Hash House of Go-Go if you want better chicken and waffles. But I got the T-shirt and the lanyard. Anyways, I didn't get to watch Straight Outta Compton in Compton, so hashtag disappointed.
Right on. Yeah, but guys, leave us comments. Leave us comments on the socials and let us know.
Yeah. Want to jump right in, man?
Yeah.
All right.
Which
First
question you want
here.
to start with?
First question. I've been in a relationship for a few years and we're truly happy. I fear that as we start to add to our family, we may lose that spark that keeps everything new and exciting. What are some ideas to keep your partner happy as the relationship develops over time? That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It is. I think it's very individualistic, but there are some generalities that we can throw around out there.
Yeah, it's very individualistic, and I can get nerdy on this one if you want me to a little bit.
Go, man. Go super nerd on us.
No, go ahead. What do you got first? Go ahead with yours.
I just listed out some things from my personal experience in this. And again, man, I'm not a trained like therapist or anything like that, but I just know what works for Katie and I, and we've been doing this for 26 years, so we must be doing something right. And you know, if you jump into any of my writings or my teachings on any of my other platforms or whatnot, I got a fruit fly that's flying around my face right now. So if you see me swat, that's probably what it is. I'm not like losing my mind here. I break down a happy marriage. This is my 3 keys to a successful happy marriage is money, communication, and sex. You keep those 3 things in balance, and I think things are going pretty well.
Yeah, well, I would agree with that to a certain extent. I mean, I think money is research-wise is the biggest issue that drives a wedge in most relationships, especially in marriage, is issues over money or differences over money. Communication's obviously key, and the kind of 4 things that I was going to talk about are all communications related.
Okay.
So yeah, and then sex obviously goes without saying. So
you know, I broke this down for my oldest son. He had at the time, he had 2 very young kids in his house, and intimacy was kind of towards the tail end of the list of their priorities. And
yeah, the back burner.
It is, you know, and I think that's perfectly normal and natural because you just get caught up in the rat race of raising kids and shit. But you have to at some point, you have to make that a conscious thing and bring that up. And you know, a technique that Katie and I used to use when the kids were real little, when we wanted just some quiet, intimate time, and it doesn't even have to be sex. It can just be intimacy. And I should have said intimacy instead of sex, but sex sounds cooler.
Yeah.
We should just go take a shower together, man. And whether it was like full on intercourse or not, it didn't matter. It's you're close to each other, you're quiet, you're in a very close space with each other. And you have to remember, I think, the reason that you got together in the first place is because you actually like each other and you're attracted to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I think too, like as relationships evolve, people evolve, right? And you want to try to evolve along similar paths to a certain extent. And you know, as relationships change and the dynamics of a relationship change, you got to find the new middle ground in all of that too. And so I think a lot of it is just being adept to staying sensitive to your partner, being grateful, you know, just all those different things, appreciating them.
Yeah.
And then just kind of moving through those processes together. That's how you make it endure, I think.
Yeah. And you know, I think I don't know, in my opinion, I think we might have missed the bullseye on this question because the actual question says, what are some ideas to keep your partner happy as the relationship develops over time? And some things that, you know, we were talking kind of beating all around it, but some things that I listed was find hobbies that you both enjoy, things that you can do together that make you happy. You know, like Katie and I like to go out 4-wheeling on the weekends. We just went out Sunday for like a 5-hour ride, just me and her, just got out into the desert and got lost a couple of times. And we had a ton of laughs, and that's the kind of stuff that makes us both happy, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. The one thing I would say is that you're not necessarily responsible for your partner's happiness.
That might be valid.
Right? Like they're an individual person. They have their own choices to make. They have their own decisions to make and their own path to walk to find what makes them quote unquote happy. But that doesn't mean you can't be sensitive to some of those things, you know, and find those things that you can connect around and continue to connect and build the relationship around, which is, I think, what you're getting at.
Yeah, and there are some things that you can do to facilitate that happiness, maybe like,
Absolutely, and you can bring happiness to their life, but
sure,
I don't think I'd be careful with the idea that you're responsible for their happiness necessarily, because
yeah,
that's
I get what you're saying, man.
that
You're,
could
I guess
get you
you're
into.
taking it, you're talking about it a little
I'm
more
I'm
absolute,
going a
or
level deeper.
yeah,
Yeah,
you,
I'm going a
yeah,
level
you're
deeper.
like words mean things and that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
and only you can define happiness, and I get that. Generally speaking, in a relationship, if one party's not happy, the other party's probably not happy. At least,
yeah.
on a surface level, and there are things that, well, okay, so let's flip the coin a little bit. What are some things you do that piss your partner off? Maybe identify those and try not to do those as much.
Yeah,
Maybe
well,
you're not.
I think but the reality is that in any relationship you're going to have conflict, and
Yeah,
that's normal and that's natural. The difference between successful relationships and unsuccessful relationships are how you resolve that conflict. That's how I
well,
see it, anyways.
all right, now you can go
Um,
super nerd and talk to us about communication then.
yeah. All right. So, have you ever heard of the Gottmans?
No.
Okay, so the Gottmans are a married couple who has they're up at the University of Washington. They're like the renowned people on marriage and divorce. And they have like a whole Gottman Center up at the University of Washington. They do a ton of research, blah, 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 blah. So they talk about the four horsemen in relationships. And
Okay, I've
I'll
seen
go
this
over
on
those if
Google.
you
I
want real
didn't read
quick.
it, but I've seen the Four Horsemen thing on Google.
Yeah. So the four horsemen, it's basically there's four things they through their research, which they've been doing this for probably 30 to 40 years now, they've discovered there's kind of four things that are the four horsemen that basically derail relationships and lead towards divorce. And the first one's criticism. So they talk about criticism is when you verbally attack personally somebody's personality or character. So it's a complaint. A complaint is something that's focused on behavior, where criticism is focused on character.
So
And then
like
they
vicious
give
personal
the
attacks.
antidote. Yeah, vicious personal attacks. And they give the antidote to that. And the antidote to that is a gentle startup. So gentle startups are where you talk about your feelings using I statements and express a positive need. We talked about this a little bit in the shame episode with Alicia. She brought up, hey, if I came up to you and I said, I'm really pissed off right now, you're going to have a different reaction than if I come up to you and go, hey, I'm feeling really frustrated right now.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean? So criticism would be like you come up to your partner or your spouse and you go, you always talk about yourself. Why are you so selfish? Right? That's a personal attack against their character. You're saying they're
Yep.
selfish.
Ad hominem.
You
Yep.
know, yeah. Instead of saying something like, I'm feeling left out of our talk tonight and I need to vent, can we please talk about my day? Right? So the difference in those two statements is in the second statement, if it leads with I feel, then it goes to I need, and then it asks for a respectful request to fulfill that need. Right? It's not a character assassination up front.
Yeah.
It's a statement that's with where you're at personally and what you need personally. And that when you can talk in that manner where there's no blame or criticism, then what it allows or what it prevents is it prevents the whole thing from escalating,
Yeah. One of
the
the
conversation
things
from
that I've tried
escalating.
to be conscious of, especially recently, I'd say in the last 6 months to a year, I've been trying to be really diligent about this. And to me, a lot of this comes down to just self-awareness and being mindful of, your time and place and choosing your words very carefully. Because guys, words are like bullets from a gun. Once you say them, you can't unsay them. You can't take them back,
Yep.
and while a person may forgive you for something that you said, they'll always remember that. I remember
Yeah,
things
they
from
will.
that people said to me when I was in grade school, that may have hurt my feelings or something like that. So that stuff stings, and forgive and forget. You can forgive, but forgetting, especially if it's something that cuts you deep, that stuff's going to linger around a little bit. But something that I've been trying to be diligent about, Cass, is when I'm ready to have one of those types of conversations, I kind
The
of
name's
preface it.
Jason.
Sorry, God dang it, I suck. Jason with one S or two S's?
One S.
Okay, so you're not one of those
Assessed.
guys. All right.
No.
Geez, what am I up to? Like $69 now?
You should know that about me, Paul.
God dang. See, now you're just showing off. This is everybody that listens to this fucking podcast knows that you're smarter than me. You don't have to walk around throwing your 130
That's
IQ around
true.
the room, damn it.
That's not mine, it's my wife's.
I try to prep the battlefield a little bit. When I'm ready to have one of those conversations with Katie, I try to prep it a little bit and say, hey, I need to get some stuff off my chest, or I'm trying to share my feelings with you or something like that, so that she doesn't think that I'm maybe like going to another place just to like circumvent or try another flank attack on her or something like that. Like, no, I'm legit trying to share my feelings with you.
Yeah, no, I think that's valid, dude. I think framing the discussion is a good way to approach some of those things. And actually what you're talking about is a great segue into the next horseman that they talk about, which is criticism. And I have an issue with this. So let me just, and by the way, just for the podcast sake, everything I'm reading or everything I'm saying is completely related to stuff I stole off of the Gottman website. So this is all their stuff. This is not any smart thing from CAS or Jason, so to speak.
Assess yourself, damn it.
Yeah, assess myself, God damn it.
That should be a double assessment. You addressed yourself
seriously.
in the third person incorrectly.
Right, I know. So the second one is contempt, and that's attacking sense of self with an intent to insult or abuse. Comes from a position of moral authority, sarcasm, cynicism, name calling, eye rolling. So what they say, the antidote to that is build a culture of appreciation and remind yourself of your partner's positive qualities, find gratitude for positive actions. They talk about small things often, which they're like, do small things often that let you express appreciation, gratitude, and respect for your partner. Yeah. And then one of the things that I've learned too is, especially in my relationship with Alicia, and this kind of goes back to my values stuff with trust, is, you know, if I come home from a trip or something and she snaps at me right when I walk in the door, well, I'm not going to take that as contempt or as criticism. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt that she's probably had a rough day or there's something else going on and I just don't know what it is yet. And I'm not going to overreact to whatever she says to me because I know that's not how she really feels. You know, yeah. And you know, so many times too, when we talk to each other in relationships, you may say something to Katie and there's no ill intent in it at all, but because of your tone or maybe the verbiage of the way you say it, she takes it as some kind of a vicious personal attack or she starts to think, oh my gosh, what's he saying about me? When there's none of that in there at all, right? And so I try very hard in our relationship to make sure that I don't let myself go down those roads because I can easily. Yeah. And that I just kind of step back and go, okay, put it on pause. I know who she is. I know what she's about. I know she loves me. I know she cares about me. And I'll circle back to that when it's an appropriate time to ask a question around that. So the example they give there is you forget to load the dishwasher again. You're so incredibly lazy, right? That's contempt. Instead of saying something like
out in the yard too.
Right. Yeah. Instead of saying something like, I understand you've been busy lately, but could you please remember to load the dishwasher when I work late? I'd appreciate it. And that comment there, you express understanding right off the bat. It's a respectful request that ends with a statement of appreciation. So those are some different ways to approach that. The third one's defensiveness. This is probably the one I struggle with the most because sometimes Alicia will say something to me and I'll like go, whoa, like, are you blaming me? Or like, yeah. Was it my fault? You know?
Yeah.
And I think they say that this one is actually the lead indicator to divorce. But defensiveness is where you victimize yourself to ward off a perceived attack and reverse the blame. So the problem's not me, it's you. Right? And the key to that, which we've talked about a lot on this podcast, is, dude, fucking take some responsibility for your actions and things.
Yes, 100%. And that's where I was right, going to go. You know, as you were talking about it, I'm just sitting here thinking about accountability and responsibility, you know, and everybody does this. Every single person does this to a degree. You get defensive. When somebody attacks you or your character, you throw out some shields real quick and you start trying to explain yourself away rather than so I learned this a long time ago, man. When somebody gives you criticism, first of all, ask yourself, who said it? Like, consider the source, right? So
Yeah.
who said it is like the first
Valid.
thing. Is that valid coming from them? Are they worthy of even making that comment? And then the second thing you have to ask almost immediately following that is, are they right?
Yeah.
And
is it warranted?
dude, yeah, I mean, well, who said it? First of all, is it a trusted source? Is it, my IP telling me that my strafe pass sucked? Or is it, one of my bros, one of my wingman bros over here hanging out in the LPA shack or whatever? Dude, you got no room to criticize me. So those two different people are gonna, they're gonna be on different pedestals when it comes to that kind of stuff. The same as in a relationship, or when you get some hate mail on social media or whatever it is. Consider the source first, but then you have to ask yourself, are they right? So sometimes, regardless of the source, they might still be right. Like your wingman bro in the LPA shack, he may be right. Your strafe pass may have sucked. Now, you're probably going to be defensive because he's one of your bros and y'all are kind of on the same level. But at the same time, your true assessment of your strafe pass may be, dude, it actually really did suck.
Yeah.
So I think a little bit of humility and a little bit of responsibility in that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And so take responsibility. Like, one, try to be understanding and accept your partner's perspective on something and try to understand that. And then if you did something wrong, dude, apologize for it. Because guess what? We all make mistakes. We're all human. And the flip side of that is, if you get an apology, accept it. Don't sit there and be a douchebag about it.
Yeah,
and
I told you. Yeah.
Yeah. And drag it out.
Fucking validating me. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
right.
Yeah.
So
don't gloat. Yeah, and I had that written down as one of the things is, if you win an argument, like a lot of your relationships, especially when you're talking about a husband and a wife, it comes down to a lot of negotiation and compromise. A lot of the things that you're talking about, like who's going to do the dishes, who's going to cook the food, who's going to, whose turn is it to run errands, or, whatever it is, a myriad of list of things that it could be that you're discussing. But a lot of it's going to come down to negotiation and compromise. If you win a negotiation, or if you win an argument or whatever, you maybe come out better on this one. We've said it before, man, marriage is never 50-50. It's somebody's always going to be pulling a little bit more weight than the other guy. And I think that's one of the things that makes it healthy and makes it great, is that trust that, if you're having a bad day, the other guy can pick up the slack, or gal can pick up the slack and help the train keep moving forward.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. And I think what's important in that too is, it's not about, like, if you're in a serious relationship with somebody too, it's not about winning an argument, man. Like, it's really about finding understanding and common ground. Right? If your focus and going into it is, I got to win this argument, then you're already fucking going to lose, because that's just not how good relationships work, right? It's you got to approach it from more of a place of, where do we come together? Where do we find understanding, and how do we find common ground on this? And then how can we move forward out of it?
That's that negotiation.
But one thing you said,
the best negotiations always end in a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said too, I think some of the things too that are just tips and tricks is, divvy up the responsibilities. Like, have that conversation. Don't pull all the weight yourself, because you're just going to get resentful if you do. If you need help, ask for it. And you gotta maneuver and massage your way through those things. And guess what? It changes too. It changes as life goes on. It changes when kids happen. It changes when you shift jobs. Like, Alicia and I went through a huge transition when I went from being at Luke Air Force Base in the military and being home every night to being on the road 3 days out of the week.
Yeah.
So
that's tough.
Those are just things that you got to work through and figure out.
Yeah. All right.
So
you got anything else to add on that one, or move on to the next one, or what?
Well, I'll just say that their example there was, like, you go, it's not my fault that we're going to be late. It's your fault, since you always get dressed at the last second. I don't like being late, but you're right.
I know this story.
Yeah. Sorry, it's not my fault that we're going to be late. It's your fault, since you always get dressed at the last second. Something you could say different is, I don't like being late, but you're right. We don't always have to leave as early as I like to. And I can be a little more flexible. So admit your role in the conflict. You like to leave early. even while asserting that you don't like to be late, you won't escalate things because you're admitting your piece in it,
Yeah.
right? Because, right, the conflict there could be, well, we're going to be late because you get dressed so late, but then your wife's going, well, we're not going to be late because you just want to leave early. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's what they're getting at there.
That's
And then the
also
last
like,
one's stonewalling. Go
I was
ahead.
just going to say, some of that stuff that you were just talking about, that to me kind of falls in the petty arguments kind of category.
Yeah,
I
sure.
mean, legit, dude, and this isn't, trying to be bragging or anything like that, but in 26 years, I can probably count on one hand how many really good fights Katie and I have had. And I don't know, probably 3 of them were still over dumb shit. Most of the time we just get irritated with each other over something dumb or something petty. It's just not worth getting that
Yeah, most of it's
emotionally
not worth
invested
it.
in an argument like that, because you end up either saying or doing something that's going to last, and you probably didn't mean it, or something like that. So we both just kind of have always, we just stop. If we're arguing about something, then we'll just stop and maybe go to our separate corners for a couple of minutes and then come back and reattack or something like that. Let cooler heads prevail, kind of thing.
That's a perfect segue because the last one that they talk about is stonewalling, which is where you withdraw to avoid conflict and convey disapproval, distance, separation. It usually happens when somebody feels flooded or emotionally overwhelmed. And the antidote to that is physiological self-soothing. So it's just taking a break, right? So
Yeah.
you come home, Katie's in your face, you're feeling overwhelmed because you just had a shitty day at work. Now there's all this stuff going on at the house. You have no idea what the fuck it is about. And you're like, holy shit, right? And you don't even know how to respond to any of it. Rather
Yeah.
than withdrawing completely from the conversation and just taking the beating or getting pissed off and lashing out, the best thing to do there is just to go time out.
Yeah.
Give me 30 minutes.
Hey, let me go take a long hot
Give me
shower
30
and then
minutes.
we'll reattack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just give me 30 minutes and we'll reattack, right?
Yeah.
And they actually say in the research what they've seen is that if you take a break like that, it needs to be 20 minutes or longer because it usually takes the average person's body physiologically to calm down about 20 minutes.
That's good info, man. I didn't know that. I mean, probably through experience I'd realized that, but usually it's I will probably come back here to my man room, shut the door, put on a TV show, maybe 30 minutes to an hour, and then I will, I don't know, magically have to go get a drink of water or something, and in passing we'll rekindle that conversation. But I've learned to be very cautious of the words that I use. There's a chapter in my book called Choose Your Words. And that's what it's all about, is choose your words carefully, man, because you don't want to say something you can't unsay, or maybe you didn't mean, or you don't want to lead a sentence off with "you're acting just like your fucking mother." That's probably not going to win you a lot of brownie points.
It's not gonna win you points. No, and the other thing I would say too is just like the gratitude, appreciation, and respect piece. I think is really big, and I think
Yeah.
too is you've been in a relationship for a long time. It's very easy to get diverging paths because you know each other so well that you stop being curious about the other person. And what can happen
Oh,
there is, right? And I think
hold up.
what can happen.
No. This is going to be a good segue into the next question. So go ahead and finish your thought, and then we'll go into the next question because I got
Yeah,
this. This is
well,
good.
all I was going to say is it's really easy. I know in my first marriage that happened to me where we just kind of got on diverging paths. We didn't really stay curious about each other, and then one morning we woke up and we really didn't know each other anymore, you know? And so I think it's important to stay invested in the person that you're with and to continue to stay curious and ask questions and continue to find ways to grow together, kind of like you were saying, right? Whether it's through hobbies or like same interests or,
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things Alicia and I love is watching football on Sunday afternoon together.
Yep.
I mean, that's just, we both enjoy it. We both like it. It brings the family together. It's just fun. It's a good time. And so, and there's all kinds of other things that you can use, but I think that's the important thing is I think we get into, it's really easy in relationships to get into very defined roles and you kind of assume that that's the role you're going to carry when the nature of a relationship is always shifting one way or the other. And if you're not shifting
Yeah.
with it, man, you're going to end up going down different paths.
Yeah, that's valid. I think the type of relationship it is maybe has some weight in there too. And we've kind of limited our discussion mostly towards a marriage or at least, a partnership of some kind like that. But I mean, even with close family members, you can apply some of these principles and keep the communication lines open. And if you find yourself getting heated with someone, I mean, I've done this from my mom, my grandmother, aunts and uncles, brothers and sisters, whatever. If you find yourself getting ready to say something you think that could be either come across as abrasive or um, one of my litmus tests, man, is if I can feel my face starting to get a little bit flush, it's probably time to back off. And that's just my physiological response to the anxiety of the argument or the discussion that's going on. I'm starting to get emotionally invested in this. And when we do our episode on emotional intelligence, that's one of the things to bring up is an emotionally intelligent person understands these physiological changes. You may not understand the emotion that you're feeling, but you can tell that your body is feeling a little bit different. And maybe that's your signal to back off just a tad.
Yeah, or take a break.
Yeah. Well, good, dude. You were going into that staying curious piece and how you maybe go separate ways. And in relationships, it's very easy to get comfortable and forget about the little things. Like I try to make it a point and not to go TMI on anyone, but I try to make it a point whenever I walk past Katie in the house, I grab her butt. And it's just something small, something little to let her know that I'm thinking about her. I see you, you're not just another figure walking around the house or whatever. You're my person. And I try to display that a little bit, but the next question comes in along those lines that you were just talking about. The next question goes like this. For the last 2 years, I've been working the same job with the same people with the same daily task. I'm pretty good at it by now, and I find myself zoning out throughout the day. I'm worried I'm becoming complacent and may end up making a mistake. What are some ways to prevent becoming complacent? So I just looked up real quick to get us a good working definition of complacency, and this is what I came up with. Complacency is a self-satisfaction that's accompanied by one's self-awareness of actual dangers or deficiencies. We're all subject to complacency since we're never attentive 100% of the time. And we used to see this in flying all the time where, channelize attention, task saturation. We used to brief it in motherhood all the time. And that's to avoid that complacency. And one of the best things that we can do is keep our cross check going, which we just talked about a couple episodes ago. We talked about a personal cross check, mind, body, soul balance, all those kinds of things. So what do you got on complacency?
Yeah. So complacency's difficult, right? Because it can creep up on you. And I mean, and like you said, we face that. I mean, I know in my later years in the Air Force, right? I faced times where I probably got complacent, and in a fast moving environment like that, that's probably not the place that you want to be complacent at, because when you start to drop things out of your cross check, that's when number 2 runs into you on a crank or something like that, right? So for me personally, the way that I've battled complacency in my life, and again, going back to the fighter squadron example, you saw guys, they get complacent, they get set in their role as a 4-ship flight leader or an IP, and they think that they've got it down and they know it, and they just kind of stop doing what they're doing. I mean, we saw it in the 425th with some of the instructors that we had that had a lot of pushback to us actually challenging the RSAF and really teaching the newer ways that we were doing some of the air-to-air flows and things like that, because I think it was outside of their comfort zone, man, because they had gotten very complacent in what they had done down there for several years, and it was scary for them to step out of it. So one of the things that I think you can do to combat that, though, is you got to set goals and challenges. You got to keep new goals for yourself and challenges for yourself. And that 100%. Can be on a personal or professional. So like, dude, a good example I think of that is 75 hard that you've done, a couple of times now.
Yep.
Right. So, I mean, that's just a personal challenge that you give yourself with a goal that makes you do a bunch of stuff to get yourself in better shape. I mean, talk about that.
Well, yeah, I was going to bring that up in the discussion here, but so the basis of 75 hard is it was dreamed up by Andy Frisella, and he had done a lot of studying on his own personal life, and he wanted to find a program that was designed to build mental toughness and mental resiliency. And so he came up with this program, and there's 5 daily actions that you have to do for 75 days, no compromise. Like zero compromise. If you one of the items is to drink a gallon of water every day, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not. Trust me. But if you come up 1 ounce short, you start over at day one, man. And it's personal accountability is what that comes down to. But here's the thing, right? This is what nobody tells you about 75 hard is once you've completed 75 hard, once you're done with it and you put it away and you go, check, I got it. What you have now for the rest of your life is you have a baseline and a litmus test that you'll know when you're slacking off. Like I can tell you that for the last 2 months, personally, I've been slacking a little bit. I still go to the gym, but I'm kind of just going through the motions. I haven't been sticking to my diet like I should be. I've put on a couple of pounds. I'm not real happy with myself. And I keep telling myself, well, after I get done with this trip or when I get done with this podcast or when I get done with this, fill in the excuse here, what I need to do. And I'm mindful of this. I'm aware of this. I'm actively choosing to not do it. And I know that. And that's all because of 75 hard. What I should be doing is I should be waking up every morning going, today I'm going to win. And that was the first thing that I had listed down under complacency is realize that you don't have to win next week. You just have to win today. And keep your focus nearsighted. And I think that will help you with your complacency a little bit. If you focus on just winning today, winning the next evolution, win getting to work, win, up until the lunch break or whatever your day entails, if you can win the small victories, what you end up doing is you end up creating momentum. And when you get momentum, you like that feeling. You love that internal feeling of accomplishment and winning. Winning feels really good, man. And I can go down I can get fired up when I start talking about this shit, right? Winning feels really good. And when you get that momentum going, you want to win more and you start putting in more and more energy to it. And then now this is where I go to the 1 of 5 stuff and I go improve, ignite, inspire, right? You improved your personal standard by doing these things every day. You've now ignited the fire within you to win even more. And now you're starting to inspire other people because you're winning so fucking hard that everybody else wants to win like you.
Yeah, totally. And I think you do that by setting realistic goals and challenges for yourself. And they don't have
100%.
to be big, right? They can be small too, right? But just figuring out what are the things that I want to accomplish, what are the things that I'm trying to strive for, and then setting goals or challenges that help you attain that. That's the first thing
Yep.
that you can do to challenge that complacency. And I just want to say, and we've talked about this before, but when you set goals, guys, make sure they're measurable, make sure they're actionable, make sure they're achievable, and make sure they're timely. So set a time frame to it. Don't set a goal that's I'm going to lose 50 pounds in 2 weeks because that's just not achievable, right? It has to be something that's realistic and attainable, and then set off to it. But you got to push yourself outside of that comfort zone. I think part of complacency is we get into these battle rhythms that become very comfortable to us. And what you want to do is you want to push yourself outside of whatever you've gotten comfortable in and find those things that are going to push you forward, because that's what's going to keep your mind engaged and that's what's going to keep you motivated. Setting ambitious targets for yourself through goals and challenges is going to help create it, like you were saying, a sense of purpose and drive. And it'll help you stay focused and determined. And that's how you can kind of turn the corner on those things. But to your point too, because you just said it right, I think the other part of that is you got to set a personal standard for yourself.
Yeah. Agreed.
Is the standard doing whatever I need to do to get by at the job because that's what required of me? Or do you want to set a personal standard that exceeds that? And I think I mentioned this on either the last podcast or the podcast before, but like in my work, where I'm at now, there's no cross-check to teach guys as they're coming up as first officers in my business, at least in the airline I'm at. And so what do? Do you just accept the fact that you're just going to do basically kind of what they didn't teach you in training, or are you going to figure out what are the key things that I need to look at in critical phases of flight in order to make yourself better, more effective, more safe, etc., right? And so that's how I've challenged myself to fight complacency in my own job right now is figured out, how can I do this? What are the cross checks that I need to have? What are the additional things that I'm going to look at different phases of flight, different altitudes that we pass, to make sure that I'm capturing all the data that I need to make sure that everything, all the systems are working like they're supposed to be, everything is moving like it's supposed to be, we're good to go. So you got to set a personal standard, and then make that personal standard kind of above and beyond wherever you're at right now.
Can I just go like foundational level, basic
Please.
B1 change one shit for us?
Yeah.
What we're talking about, what we've been talking about for about the last 7 minutes, is self-awareness. So identifying that you're becoming complacent. I just gave you my example of it. I have identified that I've become complacent in my exercise, my fitness, my diet routines. I still do my reading. I still drink enough water, but I've let myself slack off because I've misprioritized some things. So it comes down to self-awareness. Can you identify that you're becoming complacent? First of all, the second thing is, do you have a personal standard, and are you upholding to it and holding yourself accountable to it? And what do those two things all come down to? We've said it 1,000 freaking times on here. It's all freaking mindset. It's all your individual mindset. What's going on between your ears? Are you the kind of person that's going to humbly hold yourself accountable and rise up to your own challenge to the standard that you set? Period.
Yep. And that's it, man. And I mean, one of my bullet points was a growth mindset and embracing a culture of learning and improvement, right? So how can you improve? How can you learn? Where can you get better? You've got to embrace that mindset, and then you've got to look for those opportunities and seize them. And guess what? Yeah, it takes extra effort. And sometimes people don't want to put that extra effort in. But if you want to set yourself apart, that's what you have to fucking do. That's just how it works, man. I don't know what else to tell you about that. And the other thing you said too there is accountability. And it's not just personal accountability, but dude, if you're struggling, like, you know what? AA has mentors for a reason. And it's to hold people accountable.
Yep.
You know, that's so it. If you're going through something,
I had written down, find an accountability partner. Yep.
Yeah, you need an accountability. If you need an accountability partner, find an accountability partner. Find one for work. Find one for working out. Have somebody that's going to meet you at the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning to get shit done. Yep. You know, if you're struggling with addiction or you want to stop chewing or whatever, like, dude, find somebody else that does too, and hold each other accountable. Like, or you know what? Go to your partner. We were just talking about relationships. Be honest with your partner. Tell them what you're struggling with. Let them be your accountability partner. If you don't think that won't drive you guys together versus apart, I mean, those are the things that can drive you together. So
I can tell you that in 26 years, one of my favorite periods of time was when Katie and I were doing 75 hard together. We went on walks every day together. We were reading the same books and having the same types of discussions. And I mean, it was like 2.5 months of just being glued together. It was really awesome, man. And you know, we've already kind of put on the calendar that we're going to do it again later down the road here after some things settle down. And okay, insert excuse here. That's fine, whatever. But you're exactly right, man. And I mentioned a few episodes ago about, you know, if you want to run a marathon, one of the things that you can do is tell everybody that you know that you're going to run a marathon. Sign up for it and tell everybody you know, and they'll help hold you accountable. It won't come in the form of, you know, did you go to the gym today? It'll come in the form of, hey man, how's your training going? And that'll remind you, oh shit, yeah, I should probably strap my shoes on. You know, so it doesn't have to be this formal, 5 o'clock phone call going, hey Jason, get your ass to the gym. It can just be like, hey bro, did you get yours today? Yeah, got mine. All right, cool, check. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, the key to that is there's personal accountability in it, but two, if you need an accountability partner, then find one.
Yeah, well,
because accountability is a big piece to fighting complacency.
Yeah, call me, send me an email. I've probably got 5 that I've got a little calendar reminder set up to once every couple of weeks. I send them a text message going, hey dude, did you get it? You know, I've given them some programs. Maybe they're following them, maybe they're not. I've given them some ideas on how to reach some of their goals, or at least ways that I thought that they could reach their goals. I'm not certified in any of this crap. I just do what feels right. But it's that, that little reminder once a week or once every 2 weeks, they get a text message from old Paul here that says, see how I did that? That was third person referencing myself the correct way. So
thank you.
I should get $2 off and you should have $2 added.
No,
anyways,
you don't get any.
you
There'll
don't
be
get
none of
like
that.
you don't no refunds in the Snacko assessments. No
No
refunds.
refunds.
This is
No,
bullshit.
no refunds.
All right. Well, hey, but this bleeds over nicely to the last question that we are going to tackle in the last couple of minutes here. And it was, how do you maintain motivation and consistency when pursuing goals? And I think that those two, this discussion is hand in hand. In fact, you just went down kind of the rabbit hole of how to set goals and how to meet those. And to what you were saying about I use the SMART mantra: specific, measurable, attainable,
Yeah.
realistic, timely. And it's all the same stuff. But one thing that I will say is, once you set your goal out there, like for example, Caleb going to college, his goal is to get a diploma and get in a fighter cockpit. Well, then work that backwards and find out what the intermediate milestones are that you need to meet in order to make that goal. So maybe an intermediate milestone is, I need to get through this first semester with a 4.0 grade point average. And you could break that down even further, going, I need to ace all my midterms. And you can break that down even further and go, I need to turn in all my homework on time and have it, 90% or better correct. Those are all very specific and very measurable. And you can yes or no check the box. Did I do this or not?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it really comes down to what we were talking about, which is setting appropriate goals for yourself and then striving to meet those goals, right? And you may come up short here or there. That's fine. That's part of the process, right? Because that's how we learn. That's how we learn how to pivot and prioritize our time correctly and do all the things that we need to do in order to achieve them. But yeah, that's a great example, is just stepping it back and going, hey, man, here's the overarching goal. Now, how do I break that down into small, bite-sized chunks so that I can actually get to where I need to be?
That's it. How do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. And some of those goals, man, like the question specifically was, how do you maintain motivation and consistency? It's difficult to do that on what could be a 5-year goal, right? So I think keeping your focus very short term, very, very nearsighted focus, I think that keeps you motivated. And go back to my previous discussion about momentum. When you finish this week, you get to the end of Friday this week and you look back and you go, dude, I turned in all my homework on time and I got good grades on all of it. That feels really good. And that motivates you to do it the next week. So that's an easy way to maintain motivation on it. Another thing, and this kind of it's a little bit contrary to what we were just saying, but allow yourself to sit there and daydream some, like maybe day one of flight school, you're looking at when the first test is here at the end of the week, and you've got 69 academic blocks between now and then that you got to be prepared for. And it's very daunting and it's going to suck. But at night, when you lay down, you close your eyes, you dream of that first sortie in that jet. You kind of daydream a little bit about the first time strapping it on. And that's your motivation, man. Now you don't focus on that and you don't get wrapped up in that. You have to focus on the near term, but allow yourself to daydream about that audacious goal. What does it feel like when I'm on stage giving that presentation to all these people, or what's it feel like when I get that promotion, whatever it is?
Yeah, well, that's just manifestation to a certain extent too, right?
Yeah, visualization,
there's nothing wrong with that at all. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I don't think it's contrary at all to what we're saying. I mean, imagine yourself in that place. Imagine yourself doing what it is you want to do.
Yeah.
And then work on all those small goals that you need to meet in order to get yourself there.
Yeah. That's a little bit of daydreaming, I think, is very healthy. Now go back to the complacency piece of it. Don't be daydreaming when you're driving down the 303 in the middle lane going 50 miles an hour and that kind of stuff. Being all complacent and shit, and having me roll up behind you in my 10,000-pound truck, honking my horn and flashing my lights at you.
Yeah, and I think
by the way, the
motivation
snowbirds
too,
are back in town, and I'm a little irritated about it. If you can tell.
I know. I think the big thing too is when it comes to motivation, it kind of comes back to what we were talking about in complacency a little bit too, which is, dude, at some point in your life, if you want to get to where you want to be, you've just got to set a standard for yourself, and then you've got to work really hard to achieve it.
Yeah.
And that comes with setting goals. That comes with holding yourself personally accountable. That comes with discipline. It comes with all those pieces. And it's not easy. And you're going to come up short sometimes. And that's okay. Right? But if you're not willing to do that, then you're never going to be able to motivate yourself to do the things. Because guess what? Whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, the road to get there is going to be difficult. right? It's going to take extra effort. It's going to take extra work. It's going to take extra education, maybe potentially. It's going to take you putting in some time and some effort into whatever that task is. And if you don't have the internal drive, if you don't have a standard set for yourself to do that, then let's be honest, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
If you're not going to start working towards that today, you're probably not going to start working towards it tomorrow.
That's valid.
So
the best thing you can do is start today.
Yeah. And so my point in saying that is just at some point you have to be honest with yourself, and you just got to look yourself in the mirror and go, look, dude, it starts today, right? Like today I started.
Yep.
Today is where I start to achieve this personal standard for myself. Today is where I start to work towards this specific goal. I'm going to do it. And then you move out. You just got to move out and work at it. And, sometimes you come up short. Sometimes you win big. It just depends. But if you don't move out, you're never going to get there.
So 3 questions answered, in depth, one common thread for my parting shot. What's the common thread on all 3? It's all down to the individual level. It's all about what you do with yourself. Talked about relationships in the beginning and how you maybe aren't obligated to maintain the happiness of your partner, but your actions can definitely contribute to or take away from. Talked about complacency and how you can mitigate that. And absolutely, it comes down to your self-awareness and your ability to identify and hold yourself accountable to a standard. And then you talked about finally motivation towards a goal. It all comes down to what's going on between your ears. It's all self-driven. It's all self-awareness. It's all personal to the individual. And that's one of the key focuses, I think, of the Be One Change One podcast is focus on yourself, man. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. We've talked about the man in the arena, and don't worry about the outside noise. Focus on you. Don't worry about the critics. Focus on you, your personal standard, and maintaining that day to day. Don't forget to take a day or a little bit of time to just have some R&R. Take a chill day, take a rest day, take a down day, read a fun book. It doesn't have to be all self-help and, all this kind of stuff. But dude, it comes down, this is my parting shot, is it all comes down to the individual. It comes down to you and your personal level of effort to making yourself a better person every day.
Yep. That's it. That's all it comes down to is who do you want to be and what are you willing to do to get there? Because it's like you said in the last podcast, man, 10 years from now, you're going to be somewhere. Where is that going to be?
10 years from now, you're going to arrive. The question is where?
Yeah, exactly. And it's all going to come down to the choices you make today.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Any pile-ons, Jason?
Nope, I don't, Paul. Thank you.
All right. Happy First Name Friday, guys. We'll see you next month.
Yeah. Be the one.
Be the change. Thanks for flying with the Be One Change One podcast. If you got something out of this show, then be the one and share it in your circles of influence.
You can be our wingman through our website at www.be1change1.com. That's B and the number 1, change and the number 1.com.
We invite you to be the one and join our fighter squadron on social media at Be1Change1 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can follow us at Paul Roscoe White on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, as well as Roscoe's website, www.paulroscoewhite.com.
You can email us from the website and please leave comments, share, and ask questions, or leave ideas of things you would like to discuss on future podcasts. Most importantly, be the one that helps us win the algorithm by leaving a review on whatever platform you're listening on.
Thanks for joining. Until next time, be the one.